Welcome to this short presentation and sharing of life's lessons called the Spicer Method. For those who don't know me, my name is Jean-Marc Flambert from Eleanor, and we have put together this exclusive event for Eleanor team. And if you're watching on the recording, we know, apologies that it couldn't be done at the time that we could all be there. We're really focusing on the fact that the last 12 months has been crazy for all of us, but in particular, for all of you who've been in the front line, in the field, day in, day out, exposing yourself to COVID, getting COVID, all for the sole purpose of protecting the service users that have been entrusted in our care. And Eleanor family are really thankful for the spirit with which you have done this. So it has to have a toll at some point. I'm sure many of you recognize already it has or it is having a toll. And it's really, really important to remember that it's okay not to be okay. And on our website, if you type in eleanorhealthcaregroup.co.uk/team, we've just created today a page which will keep on having messages, reminders, and that will also be the place where you will be able to watch the recording of this for a limited time for those who have missed the presentation. I'm delighted to welcome both Valerian and Andy to share their insights. Valerian is a friend for a couple of years now. She's a former international boxer, a Commonwealth boxer, and an incredible individual. Valerian Spicer. Andy Cole is a business psychologist and cognitive therapist. And today is the culmination of many years of work where they have created Spicer Method, Spicer being Valerian's name, and you'll learn what Spicer means and what it stands for in the next half an hour to 45 minutes. And really just sit back, relax, try to put the phone on silent if you can. If not, I understand you have to answer the calls. But let's listen to what they've come up with, because you can't argue with the fact that, yes, we are under a lot of stress and a lot of pain, but being in a boxing ring, having punches being thrown at you left and right must be pretty stressful too. So over to you.
Jean-Marc, thank you very, very much for that lovely introduction. And hello to everybody that's live at this event, and also hello to anybody that I'm talking to in future time who might see this on a recording on your website. So yes, we are going to be talking about handling stress. Let me first acknowledge, similarly to Jean-Marc, how difficult that has been for all of the people involved in caring for people who are vulnerable or disadvantaged, and you have who are your service users. That's an enormously important thing for you to have done. And as somebody with relatives, perhaps not in your organization, but similar ones being looked after by people, I know the great job that you do. So thank you very much for that from both of us. We are going to be talking about handling stress. We are going to be first focusing on Valerian and her boxing career. We've got a little film for you coming up, and then I'm going to be interviewing Valerian about how to cope with that type of stress that's coming at you. But of course, you don't have to have an opponent who's coming at you to be stressed. Sometimes we might feel like we are our own opponent. We're fighting ourselves to try and get through the day. Sometimes we think that life is too much, too fast, happening all at the same time. So after we've spoken a little bit about sports and about how to withstand and to stay resilient, we're going to generalize that out. And I'm going to be introducing you to an idea about resilience and burnout, maybe thinking about 3 bank accounts that we all have: a physical one, an emotional one, and a vocational one, and how we might stay in the black of those bank accounts might help us stay resilient. So more of that later, but Valerian, we've got a film a short film that you made, or people made for you. Sorry, so a film producer made for you a little while ago, which very nicely tells your story, I think.
We do. I am going to play that now. It's my mum's country. It was a really special moment when I first competed for Dominica. I was the first female boxer to represent Dominica. I was the first boxer to win a medal at an international tournament.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
And I was the first boxer to win a bout at a world championship.
That's it, go! Go again!
When I was growing up, sport was my life. And I moved away from home and I didn't do any sport or exercise for about 8 or 9 years. So actually getting back into a sport felt very normal. I didn't start boxing till I was 30. And at that time, I think I was at a bit of a crossroads as to where my life was going and what direction it was going to take. I didn't know which direction I was going with my job. And then when boxing came along, it gave me a purpose. So I liked the fact that it was very structured. You started off having bouts, then you competed in tournaments, then you got into the national championships. With the Commonwealth Games, all those factors seemed to come together at the right time in my first bout. And I remember coming out into the arena and there was hundreds of people watching. It seemed like everyone in some capacity that knew me saw me boxing at the Commonwealth Games. I remember getting into the ring for the first time, just before the fight was about to start. And I remember looking to my right and seeing my parents waving in the audience. It gave me such a good feeling and made me relax for the whole fight.
Representing Dominica, Valerian Spicer. Here we move into the 60-kilogram lightweight tournament.
Well in this round, some nice left hooks landing cleanly, high tempo, high work rate, which is exactly what she needs to do against the more experienced Pritchard.
So to the second round we go. Beautiful left, right hand over the top was effective as well. Really do a good job of getting inside the longer reach of the boxer in red. So there's the bell. It's going to be interesting to see how this one is. She only got one judge's score in that opening round, so she's made an adjustment now. And she really is getting on the front foot.
Great heart there by Spicer. She absolutely dug in.
And seeing my parents in the arena, out of hundreds of people in the arena, was a really special moment for me and made it all feel worth it. looking back on my career, I'm so thankful for all the experiences I've been able to have. And now, being a full-time mum, I'm equally as excited with this new chapter in my life.
Stuff is so fluffy.
Making sure that I'm the best mother that I can be for him, giving him the best start in life. I think I'm grateful for the opportunities that presented themselves for me with the boxing. In 8 years, I managed to become a national champion, compete in 2 Commonwealth Games, 1 Pan American Games, 2 World Championships, 1 Continental Championship, as well as being a top 20 world ranked boxer. I made the most of all the opportunities.
Okay. What's it like when you watch that film, Valerian?
Every single time, I always say the same thing. I always get very emotional. I mean, I don't know how many times I've watched this film. I don't sit there at home watching it, but it basically, it just sums up my boxing career. And you know, for 8-9 years, I had one goal. Everything got pushed aside for the boxing, and you know, I was living in this bubble. So it feels, you know, it's a time that it's over now. And, you know, I don't necessarily want to go back. I don't want to go back to that hard training. I mean, there's certain aspects of it I really miss, you know, but I can't see myself going back there.
It's fascinating. So there's a few things that maybe we can talk about in this first bit, and I know that one of the reasons why I became interested in this for as long as I've known you, which is a few years now, but since you retired from boxing internationally, it's this idea about pivoting. And so when we might start to realize that something that we're doing maybe isn't quite working, and we need to take maybe a step to the side, or we need to make a difference. I had a sense listening to the film there and watching you fight Pritchard. Is that people, the commentators are talking about, you know, you're digging in, you need to up your work rates because this person's got, you know, got more experience and they've got a longer reach than you. There's all sorts of things, and I'm just wondering about in that fight alone, if you can recall it, how were you handling the kind of the amount coming towards you? Literally, were you able to think, I need to change, or I need to switch, or was this something that you had just planned in advance anyway?
So unusually, I felt very, very relaxed going into this fight. This was the biggest platform I'd ever competed in. But before that, you know, I hadn't, you know, I was boxing on club shows and tournaments, and I'd never boxed on such a big platform before. And it was a big deal getting to the Commonwealth Games anyway. And in boxing terms, the pinnacle of the sport in boxing is the Olympics. But then there's, you know, then there's the Commonwealth Games, the World Championships. Every athlete wants to compete at the big games because it's such an incredible experience. There's all different types. You know, usually if you go, for example, even the World Championships, I mean, that you know, should be a very prestigious event. But it's just boxers. If you go to the games, they've got all the disciplines. They've got athletics. They've got everything, and it's just an incredible experience. So this was a really big deal for me, getting into the Commonwealth Games. You know, there was literally, you know, in that video, I think I said there was hundreds. There was actually there was thousands of people in that stadium. So I could have completely crumbled. But you know, unusually, you know, because going into a boxing ring is, you know, it's a difficult thing. You're going into a very pressurized situation. You could get hurt in that boxing ring. You could get humiliated, you could get put down, you know, and there's your friends watching, there's lots of people watching. For example, the Commonwealth Games, it was televised, like people all around the world saw me. I had people come to watch me. If something had happened to me, you know, I would just, you know, everybody loses. Losing's bad enough, but there are many other things that can happen in a boxing ring. So I felt very relaxed going into the fight, which was a great sign. The girl I was boxing was an experienced international boxer. She was a 2012 Olympian. No one expected me to win that fight. No one really knew about me. I'd just come up onto the international scene, so not many people knew about me. I know that she looked past me, actually, because an article came out that she'd been interviewed for just I think it was a day before we were supposed to box, and we knew we were going to be boxing each other. And she was basically saying that she'd got a good draw, and she was talking about opponents ahead of me, but she had to concentrate on me, about, you know, that's who she had to beat first, to then think about looking at the other opponents. So yeah, my coach showed me this article, and first of all I did get upset about it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to know this. This is not helpful information for me. And I think I started to use it as ammunition in my head. You know, I was the underdog, and no one's expecting me to win this. She's not expecting me to win this. I'm going to give it a surprise. And the first round, I thought, so I'm more of a boxer, which is more, I'm more of a technical boxer. So, you know, the boxers kind of fall into two categories. You're a technical boxer, or you're a pressure fighter. Right. Just, you know, someone who really pressurizes their opponent. I was a bit more a back foot boxer, and so I thought we had a good first round, and we thought we won. I didn't get the decision for the first round. The second round was much closer. I thought I probably lost the second round, so we had to change tact. I say we, you know, my coach was saying to me, look, you've got to pressurize her, and we knew from experience that she wasn't great being pressurized. So I knew after that second round, even though it wasn't my thing, I didn't necessarily feel comfortable with pressurizing. I literally just went for it. So halfway through the round, I changed tack to being a very technical boxer, to being, I think I just let everything go, and I just thought, I've got to leave everything in the ring. I've got to do the very best I can. So I just went for her, basically, and I could see the effect it was having, and she was starting to crumble, and she was starting to fall apart, and you know, that just spurred me on even more. The fight, you know, I ended up winning that fight. It didn't look pretty. It wasn't well, in terms of probably wasn't my best performance, but I did show a lot of grit and a lot of determination in that fight.
That's great. And I was thinking about how much there was in what you were saying that could have become a negative thing. So, you know, that here's a boxer that's looking past you, you're potentially you're behind in the fight, you know this. So how do you think, looking back, you were able to not let that become a negative self-talk and use it as a resource to keep you focused and to give you strength? I was just wondering how you did that. So,
you know, you're as a boxer, you're faced with all sorts of things, and you know, you need to have your head in the right place when you enter a boxing ring, because you get all sorts of questions coming into your mind. Am I fit enough? Am I good enough? Am I at this level? She's done this and this and this, and your mind gets very gets very cloudy with lots of noise and questions. But I was able to stay in that present. So I wasn't thinking about the rounds that I just had, even though I knew at that time that I was behind. Well, I knew I had to do a lot more anyway to get the decision. So, you know, I wasn't worrying about the 2 rounds that had just gone. I was literally just taking every moment by moment. So I was managing to keep a calm head. So I had clarity to think about changing the situation.
So the clarity comes by not ruminating, not thinking about what just happened, or why did it happen, or why is this happening to me, and not thinking about the future, not worrying, not what if I don't achieve it, just going, all I have is right here, right now. And that gives you a kind of, well, you described it as feeling quite calm, you know, even when you were coming into that big stage.
Yeah, exactly. I was faced with so many things. There were so many firsts for me going into that environment, and you know, I felt very good that I'd completely managed to keep my cool and my composure all the way through. And I, you know, in previous fights. You know, if I've got into a boxing ring and I haven't felt relaxed, it was always going to be a hard
Right.
fight. So you know, the fact that I knew I stepped into that ring and I was settled already, that was a really good sign for me.
So it sounds like you knew that there were no advantages in feeling bad about a situation that was going to be happening anyway, that you wanted to happen, that you trained for. There's no advantage of feeling bad about that. Actually, the advantage is in knowing that it's going to be tough, and knowing that you just need to do what you trained for.
Yeah, and I think you end up just accepting the situation. Like every boxer would say this before they get into a fight. Just it's so nerve-wracking. You know, you're going in to have this fight. Anything can happen in that fight. And you know, it's very pressurized situation. And you know, people make themselves sick before they go into a fight. Like you get so nervous about it. That can be very draining on you. It was, yeah, it just all came together basically.
But I'm wondering whether it just all came together is probably not an accident. You know, that there is some design in that. There's that, and I know perhaps we'll go on to talk about it later on. You've mentioned, you know, staying present, you know, having a positive attitude towards things. I guess that the method, which ultimately is kind of coming on to why we're talking today, is some of the characteristics that's helped you handle the stress. I could be sick about this. Most boxers feel terrible, but actually it's a resource that's telling me that there's a different way of being, a different way of acting that's going to be more successful for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think we've got another picture of you. I think we are talking to some people on the next slide or two. Just carrying on about this idea about pivoting. I mean, I know that pivoting is a technique in boxing itself, where you might be, you know, moving to the side or changing something. But I was interested in this idea about pivoting being when you know you have to change direction and do something. And I guess I'm interested in two things. You know, you start boxing at 30. You're doing something else before, so that sounds like you pivoted there. I'm not, you know, either I'm not happy, or I'm not doing something that I want to do. In the film, you said, you know, as a child, sport was everything for me. Can you say something about why pivoting might be helpful? Why did you decide to start boxing at 30?
Is it me, or has Valerian gone
I think
silent for a moment?
I think she may have gone silent.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think she's just accidentally got logged out. So she'll be back with us. Please bear in mind. At this point, if there's any questions that anybody has, please feel free to type it into the chat at the bottom. I'm just going to do this so that you know, chat at the bottom there if you can't see it on the bottom of your screen. And I'm sure she will be back with us in a moment. There's always a technology challenge, isn't there?
This is handling stress as a live experiment, Jean-Marc, of what happens. What do? We carry on.
Just carry on.
And if for any reason Valerian doesn't come back, I can continue to.
Actually, do you want to, at this point, why don't I give you host, Andy,
Sure.
so that you can, do you have the presentation open?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so let me make you host, because then that'll take, we'll be then ready to go. Do you want to change the host to Andy? Yes. So now you're the host. Once you've opened and shared your screen, Andy, I need you to then give me the host back, because otherwise I won't be able to let Valerian or anybody else in.
Yeah, okay, right, okay. Well, that's very important that you do. So
be nice to have Valerian back.
It would be, yeah, it would be nice to do that. So I need to give you back the hosting.
If you just go to participants on the bottom of your Zoom tab, and then, but you give it back to Eleanor, the first one, Eleanor with an E in the red box. Eleanor, to give the host to.
I've got two Eleanors.
Yeah, so let me change my name to, oh no, you've just given it, you are now the host. That's fine.
Okay.
So let me just check now. We still don't have Valerian. Here we go. Hi, Valerian, welcome back. Hi, Valerian, welcome back. We've given Andy the host and the screen. So yeah, you can continue, and Andy will now control the screen for you. Valerian, can you just speak to make sure we can hear you?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect.
All right, okay, great stuff. So can you still see my screen?
I can't see your screen.
Okay, let me
Yeah, there we go.
Can we see it now? Okay, yeah. Okay, so Valerian, what we were talking about is that pivot point. Why did you choose to move into boxing at 30, which I guess is unusual?
Very unusual. Yeah, normally people get into an elite sport, or they get picked up when they're I don't know, very young at school. So I was working as an EA in a corporate company, and actually at that point I was working as office administrator, and I was very disenamored with my job, and I just didn't know. I felt like I had no purpose. I didn't know what direction my job was going into. I don't know. I feel like sometimes when you're growing up, you get pushed into a direction because you sort of do what you think your parents want you to do, want you to go into, and so I end up going to university and sort of going down this other route, and yeah, I just got to 30. I was like, what have I done? You know, I'm so disenamored with my job, and I was just at this crossroads, and a few people at my work had joined up at this boxing gym called Gym Box. It was just down the road from where I worked. Prior to that, I did a fitness kickboxing session for about 1.5 years, just to for fitness and to get back into shape, and just once a week. Prior to that, I hadn't done any exercise for about 8 or 9 years. Anyway, so I joined up with this boxing gym, and I just took to it straight away. I loved it. There was a coach there who asked me. It was a conventional gym, so it wasn't really a competitive gym, but he was a coach at another gym. He saw something in my boxing and asked me if I thought about competing, which I hadn't, but I jumped at the chance, and things basically took off from there. I ended up joining an England boxing club, and my boxing journey took off from there. Basically, I just felt the boxing came along, and it filled a void. Suddenly, my life became a bit more meaningful. I had this this purpose. I was doing something I really enjoyed, and I was thinking, wow, I could possibly get to the Olympics doing this. And there were so many things I just took away from it. I just found I got a lot of satisfaction from doing it.
That's fantastic. And I was just thinking about some of the things that you said there. You know, if I can't give what I haven't got, so if I'm not particularly enjoying the role that I'm doing, I can't give as much to because I haven't got it. In the same way as if I can't maybe I can't be an elite athlete if I can't put everything I want to in that. So if I want to give something, I have to possess it already. So there's something maybe in that for me. That's just obviously we put this presentation together. That struck me about if I want to be in the black, in these in the emotional bank account, the physical bank account, in my workplace bank account, I've got to have something with me in order to give into that. Otherwise, I'm in the red, I'm in the overdraft on everything, physically, emotionally, workplace. So it sounds a bit like you were kind of in the red in your previous job, but actually then going to a gym started to think, hang on a minute, I can invest in a completely different vocation, and then that gives me more energy, more connectiveness in some kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I completely, like, I wasn't happy, and I would think I was starting to feel very resentful, and I felt like I got myself in, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I couldn't see a way out of it, and obviously I wasn't looking to, I didn't really expect that I would get so far.
No,
it just happened that I found something I just really enjoyed, and I was good at it as well. But I think even it already gave my day life more purpose.
right.
Like, having this extra thing that I enjoy doing, and I was enjoying giving my time to, then made my day-to-day, actually made my day-to-day job much easier to handle, actually.
Wow.
And already a void was filled. I mean, it still wasn't what I wanted to do in my job, but I had this other thing that
Yes.
I had this passion for, and yeah, all I can say, my life did become more meaningful because of it.
That's really interesting. So there's something in your kind of you're physically feeling well, you're feeling connected to something, so that's coming out in other areas outside boxing. It's like, I feel fine about doing this role, because you're getting other aspects of your own needs met potentially.
That's right.
Okay, so we're going to talk for a little bit about these ideas about the kind of emotional bank account. And when I think about stress, and when I'm working with clients and we're talking about burnout and being resilient, it boils down to two things. And this is not just my view. This is what what some science would say. Is a lady called Ginny Maslach who would talk about burnout and resilience. So how do we lower the stress and the drain on energy, and how do we increase your ability to recharge? Perhaps we can do both of those things, but if we can't do both, then doing one will allow us to stay in the black and not in the red, not overdrawn on our bank accounts. So I wonder if we could just talk a little bit maybe about some of those things. So what we've put here is, let's imagine there are these three bank accounts: a physical bank account, emotional bank account, and a kind of vocational bank account. When you're training as an athlete, and I know that you train people now, I know you're a fitness trainer. I know that you are also mentoring some women fighters as part of your work with a Together We Box campaign, which is promoting women in boxing. Thinking about physical fitness, how did you do that? How did you make sure that you trained in the right way to be at peak performance, but you didn't sort of burn out or overtrain, if there's such a thing as overtraining?
So when I first joined up at the England Boxing Club, I took guidance from the coaches at the gym. But I knew as soon as I joined up, because if you're going to be part of one of these clubs, you have to you know, everyone's on the same path. To be part of this club, you have to box for the club. So you have to you need to just, you need to make sure that you're doing everything that you need to be doing. You know, you need to be listening to the coaches, you know, doing all the training that they're asking, which ended up being, so in the boxing, this is just club boxing to start off with. So in the gym 3 times a week, running 2 to 3 times a week, and obviously nutrition is important as well. So the higher up I got, so once I started boxing internationally, because so usually if you're boxing for, so I boxed for Dominica, which was my mum's country, and they didn't have the resources. There wasn't like a big there wasn't high performance center. So if for example you get on the GB here, you'll become a full-time athlete. You're up in Sheffield, which is where that high performance center is, and you've got coaches for everything, strength and conditioning, nutrition, psychologists, everything is there. So we had, it was just me and my coach, and we my partner, he ended up becoming my international coach. That was the only way to make it work. So we basically, he devised the plan, but everything was done very scientifically, and it was all sort of based on you know, what the big high performance centers did. But so yeah, so the international schedule was, so I think I had 2 days off for rest. I think maybe I even started just having 1 day, then we increased to 2 days, but it was 2 to 3 times a day training, either boxing training, in the gym sparring. There were 2 strength and conditioning sessions in the week, and there were 2 to 3 running interval sessions or hill sprints in the week. And this was a routine there, and we didn't divert away. Like we did different things within the sessions, but there were the routines were the same. As well as nutrition. I don't know. There was a whole big plan. There were times, and I was this. I never really got my hair, never really, I think, was very successful at this, or we weren't, and that this was overtraining. This is such a big thing, and overtraining in sporting terms is basically when you've done too much, and you've overstretched yourself too much. There were times I got to this stage. Initially, I didn't know what was going on, because what used to happen physically, you know, I wasn't progressing. In fact, I was going backwards. Like I was just lacking energy. I was just lethargic, and because physically something was going wrong, and that would have an effect on me mentally as well. And in the beginning, I didn't really know what was happening. So I thought, well, I need to train harder. I need to train more because I've got this tournament coming up, or I've got this something else coming up. So I just kept used to pushing through it. And that is the worst thing you can do if you're overtraining. You need to have a break. That means your body needs a break. And it needs, maybe you need more sleep, you need to rest. You need to maybe have a look at your nutritional needs. So when I was competing internationally, I had an iron problem. I was fatigued at certain times, and I ended up having to take supplements. But I don't think I was taking enough, and I was always very ultra paranoid because you know, so we were told that do not put anything into your body that doesn't have, in terms of nutrients, that doesn't have this emblem which says sport informed. And that means that it's been completely drug tested. So I was ultra paranoid of what I was putting in my body. I mean, I remember getting a knock on the door. This was in the middle of winter. It was snowing outside. It was 4 or 5 in the morning, and there was a knock on the door. And I was like, okay, I know what this is. This is the drug tester that's come to take a sample. So, and that's what it was. So they used to turn up, but just bizarre.
When you don't expect them.
Yeah, you completely don't expect them. No, exactly. Or they'd be waiting for you as you come out of the fight, and they'd be waiting for you. So I was always ultra, you know, paranoid about what I was putting in my body, and I think because of it, I don't think, you know, I know that I lacked. There were certain things I was lacking, and I didn't quite get those things right. You know, and all things like that. Nutrition contributes to over tiredness, overtraining, training as well.
And obviously now, you know, you run a class, and we've got people coming along to the Spicer Method online fitness classes, and we've got nurses, we've got people involved in care of disabled people coming along to that class. So, you know, they're not working as athletes, but they have physically demanding jobs. Is there anything that you can say about that? You know, what do you recommend, you know, about rest and recovery, and eating well and sleeping the best that you can? What would you say to somebody like that?
So yeah, you're right. So the responses are the same. So, you know, obviously I was training as an elite athlete, but, you know, having a demanding job, you know, the responses are exactly the same. So I know obviously you're not probably going to be able to take a couple of days of rest completely from work, but it does mean that you need to calm things down. Sleep's very important. I mean, I suppose it's not rocket science. You need to be eating well. Making sure that you've got a balanced diet, making sure that your nutritional needs are met. Yeah, so it's not, yeah, exercise. You know, obviously that's very important. But you know, if you are feeling, I always say to clients, if you're feeling a bit tired, you know, you can push through that, because often the exercise will make you feel better. But if you are feeling exhausted, then at least have rests from the training days.
Yes.
And also, you know, meditation and, you know, proper relaxation, that all helps to rejuvenating the body.
Brilliant. And the other thing that you said earlier on, which I was thinking about, is obviously you said, you know, your coach, you know, is your partner became your coach. You know, your partner's got a sports background, but also, I guess I'm thinking about emotional kind of bank account as well. If we can feel connected to people that we love, that we know that love us, or that we just want to hang around with, that's really important. I guess that's one of the things that's maybe there must have been periods of feeling quite lonely and with people that you weren't particularly connected to. And I guess, you know, our collective experience over the last 12 months is that we aren't seeing the people that we would, you know, normally be expecting to see. So I'm just wondering, anything you say about that, how draining that must be, not to be with people, or with the wrong people, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose particularly when I was boxing, like I missed so many like family functions, birthdays. I couldn't go out with friends when were going out drinking. So I was living like a monk, and you know, although, you know, in some ways from the outset it seemed quite glamorous, because I was traveling to all these different countries. I might get back one week and then go off to another country the next week, but all you saw as an athlete was the airport, the hotel room, and the venue. And you know, you didn't see anything else. If you're out of the tournament early, then I suppose there were opportunities to go and do some sightseeing, but you didn't. You were so
don't want to do it. Yeah.
You don't want to do it. You just lost the fight, and you were. Yeah, the last thing you wanted to do was just go out sightseeing. So yeah, it's a very lonely existence. So yeah, obviously, you know, I kept connected with people through you know, obviously phone calls and FaceTime and things like that. But also, you know, I when I was competing, I had a cognitive therapist that I used to see. All the top teams in the world they will have psychologists for you, you know, for you know, that is part and parcel of being an elite athlete.
Amazing. So I guess finally, if we think about, maybe I'll say something about this from my profession. If we think about those three aspects that we're looking at on screen there, physical, emotional, and vocational, we need to have something in a positive balance upon that. So it's likely that we will go, we might overtrain, or the equivalent of that in a life, you know, but might overdo it physically and feel quite depleted. If we're going to feel depleted, that's going to potentially have a connection to the emotional bank accounts. We might not feel as friendly, as interested in things. For example, if I've just lost a fight, I don't want to sightsee in the country that I've just lost in. But that's also, if I don't feel great physically, maybe I won't reach out to people and stay connected. Maybe I'm sick of, you know, of seeing people that I don't want to see very much. But I'm not going to make any efforts to see people that I know that would normally nourish me and make me feel good. And if I'm feeling like that, I'm probably not going to feel brilliant about my work, even though I love my work, even though I think my work gives me a sense of purpose. And yet, if I'm able to be more physically okay, that I can stay connected with people, then that sense of purpose is much more likely to be that I can hold on to it, even though that times are tough and difficult. And I guess I was thinking about some of the colleagues listening to our talk now or later on. You've got this sort of double whammy. You're feeling like that, but your service users are also feeling like that. You know, that they may be being physically depleted, emotionally disconnected, and how many demands upon those that care for service users must have, because it's physically demanding anyway. It must be emotionally incredibly upsetting. You've still got this sense of purpose, but lowering that stress, that energy drain, how increasing that ability to recharge is really, really tough. Now, of course, we'll still carry on. You know, people don't normally just stop. They're able to carry on. They go into sort of survival mode. But when we think about resilience, it's saying to yourselves, okay, there are routines in here. I've got to eat well. I've got to rest. I've got to sleep well, or sleep the best that I can. I need to be connected with people. Let me remember what's really, what the fact that I'm in this job for the long term. It is a career. It will have ups and downs. So you said earlier, the routine was always the same. It might be a slightly different strength and conditioning. It might be I might be running somewhere else than I normally do, but it's still the same. It's still the fact I'm going to go 2 or 3 sessions a week of one thing, 2 or 3 sessions a week of something else, and they combine. It sounds like a round by round, a routine that has to happen all the time is probably the best advice that we could give, preparing for any aspect of life. But what do you think about that, Valerian?
Yeah, so yeah, when I was competing in, I mean, routines were absolutely everything, and I was just sort of thinking about, you know, the times when I lost a fight, because it was, so the highs of boxing, you're, you know, up here, but the lows, you know, they're very low, and it's quite difficult after you've lost a fight or you've just missed out on a medal, because that's why you're doing it. You're doing it to get that hand raised, or you're doing it to, you know, to win a medal, or, you know, medal at the big games. You know, that's where you get those highs. But when you lose, you know, you're in a slump, and you as you say, you don't want to see people, you don't want to mix with anybody, you just want to sit in your hotel room or your room at home, and you just want to sort of just cry, basically. Like, you know, but the best, and people say, how do you handle it? But for me, the best, and if you speak to other boxers, the best way to handle it is to get back out there and get back to the routine. Yeah, that is what heals things. So, you know, then you're back in that routine, that you're then starting to think about the, you know, what you've got in the next fight coming up, or the next tournament that's coming up, and it helps the healing process. Yeah. So that it comes back to the routine.
That's brilliant. And I guess, you know, perhaps we'll end it in a moment. And if anybody's got any questions, they can ask us, or we can respond in the chat. But this is ultimately what you've talked about, and this is the method. John Marks, you know, it's the acronym against your name as Valerian Spicer, but it's about, you know, staying present, which you said in your story initially. You know, let me be positive in terms of how I'm feeling on the inside, and also how that looks on the outside. You know, that's going to have an impact upon the reputation that you have with others. This idea about pivoting, how sometimes we just have to try a different way. We have to accept that we're doing something that maybe is not working, we're not feeling very good about, but then we switch it. And if we try another way, we're more likely to be successful, rather than repeating something that hasn't worked for us again and again and again. Remembering and being reflective about the direction that we have, this inner vision, we have that with us. It allows us to navigate tough times as well as good times. So why am I doing this? What's my purpose about? You know, who am I really here? Finding that balance that Commonwealth Games, thousands of people in the crowd. No, I can find my balance, and that allows me to carry on. I guess, you know, we haven't talked very much, maybe another time, about breathing, but you know, well, we can see you breathing hard in the corner on the film anyway. That ultimately is a way to help you recover. It's part of that physical bank account that we have. And what you ended on just now, routine. We learn something. We're able to maintain ourselves. If we just do what we said that we would do to ourselves, stay well, stay connected, you know, focus on our purpose, that actually will support us in the longer term. So, Valerian, it was lovely to hear you saying what you were talking about there. Jean-Marc, let us end it there and see if there's anything that you would like.